What's up, guys? I got a track review for you today about the new Green Day song, Back in the USA. Sort of a hybrid video going on here because this track comes as part of the new Greatest Hits album from Green Day entitled God's Favorite Band, which was funny to see them go with this name in light of their fairly recent Colbert appearance. There's like a throwaway line in Bullet in the Bible where Trey says this, and it kind of, carried on as like a fan thing, and then Stephen Colbert does this, skit type thing where he has God in the ceiling talking down to him, and God introduced Green Day during their performance on the Colbert Show, and that was really funny. The band got a huge kick out of that, so I guess that gave them the idea to really go forward with that title. So this is a compilation that spans their entire discography. First, I'll give you some thoughts on the new track, Back in the USA. I do like it. It's pretty enjoyable. Bit of a more, back to basics approach for Green Day. It kind of reminds me of the Trilogy albums. It sounds like something that could have been on Trey. Which Trey I found was an album that, sort of sounded like American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown, but just a little more, I guess, solemn in its delivery, and a little more stripped down as far as the instrumentals went. So here, this certainly isn't like a sad-sounding song, but the type of melodies coming from Billy Joe, the sort of stripped-down guitars a bit, remind me of that album. But in the same instance, it sort of is a back-to-basics approach, just a nice little 1-2 punch, like a pretty quick song in the vein of some of their older material. But yeah, it's a catchy song. I would definitely suggest checking out the new video they put out for it. What they're kind of touching upon here is just a sort of, kind of passive or blind acceptance of what, I guess, like American patriotism or this typical American life should be. And then in the video, there's also a bunch of references to Trump, so that's kind of fun to see. Overall, it makes for a pretty good song. I mean, sometimes with Greatest Hits, you're just getting like a throwaway B-side type thing, which, this might have been something that was left off of Revolution Radio, because I think the sound doesn't quite fit with that. Like I said, it reminds me a little bit more of like the Trey album or earlier stuff. But, nonetheless, it's a good song. It definitely doesn't feel like a throwaway song. It works well as a single. So that song I would give probably a 4 out of 5. I do like it. As far as the rest of the compilation goes, definitely good picks on here. They're all great songs, but it's kind of sparse because at this point you're trying to fit a whole discography on one disc, which, they have 12 studio albums at this point. And obviously there's going to be omissions when you have to fit everything onto one disc for whatever reason. They could have easily done a 2-disc Greatest Hits at this point. Which would have been great. I mean, you could have done like the earlier work up to Warning on the first one, and then you could do American Idiot and on for the second disc, which would have been really cool. And you would have been able to, feature some more songs. Like, obviously, a big one, Jesus of Suburbia, is going to get left off because you're trying to cram everything in on here, and that one's just too long. Unfortunately, you're only getting 1 Insomniac song, 2 from Nimrod, 2 from Warning. Albums that I really love that are, pretty underappreciated. And which obviously are going to get pushed aside when you have to fit the hits onto one disc, by Dookie and American Idiot, which spawned so many big hits. It was nice to see Kerplunk getting included with 2,000 Light Years Away. That's something that didn't happen on their older Greatest Hits, International Super Hits. Another thing I found interesting was only one song from the Trilogy. This really seems to be a part of their career they don't want to, really remember. Because there was a lot of hard times for everyone. Billy Joe had that stint in rehab. Mike Dirnt's wife had cancer. Jason White did as well. So it was just really tough times for the band. The album kind of was written and recorded, amongst those times, especially when Billy Joe just wasn't doing very well. His ultimate, sort of meltdown in that iHeartRadio Fest is what really, trailed those albums off. You probably wouldn't even be able to say that Dose and Trey spawned any actual hits, because, once that happened, which was either the day before or the day after Uno came out, the band really went on the down low as far as promoting those next 2 records, and they did not perform well because of that. And I like Dose a lot. I like a decent amount of stuff on Trey. It would have been nice to have something like X-Kid on here. I think Dirty Rotten Bastards is one of their, better songs in their later part of their career here. Not one that would probably be on a Greatest Hits album, but maybe like a best of. But, that's why I think Revolution Radio was such a huge success. Not only because of just, great songs, a great message that fit in with the modern times, but just a very triumphant return for the band. The fact that they were able to get through all of that and come out with this album and do a massive tour. So, for me, this Greatest Hits is sort of like a victory lap. It's a good time for it because they haven't had one since International Super Hits. So that's American Idiot and On that, haven't been capitalized in a greatest hit sort of package. And as always, my view on greatest hits, as someone that's an album person, I like greatest hits too, because sometimes you just want to throw something on that's like a playlist and just listen through it that way. And it's a good opportunity for younger fans to get into the older music as well. I mean, at this point, it's weird to think about, but there's going to be a whole generation that, is coming up on Revolution Radio. I saw them this year, and the crowd was massive, and there's just a lot of young kids there. So, for them, this is their American Idiot, or this is their Dookie. So this is a great way for those fans to go into that back catalog. When I got into Green Day, it was when American Idiot was brand new. So I got American Idiot, and then the next thing I got was Super Hits, and that introduced me to the whole back catalog, and then I worked my way and got all those albums through there. So the track listing works well enough for those purposes on here, or if you're just looking to throw on a playlist of songs. And the new track, Back in the USA, sounds great. Let me know what you think of the new song in the comments, and thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to subscribe and check out some other videos, and thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you next time.